Dr. Martin?
Yes, sir.
Sound check?
I can hear you well, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Daily.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you fine, Miss Daly.
All righty, I'm here.
Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order at 5:30. This stands for the pledge. I believe in
To the flag
of the United States of America, and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call.
Dr. Garcia. Not Daily. Emily Hunt Daly.
Sorry, here.
Richard Jones.
I am here.
Leon Sandoval.
Here.
Ronald King.
Right here. I want to welcome everybody out this evening. I do want to just say, I want to thank you guys that are wearing your masks. Those are mandates from the state of New Mexico. And we as a board passed the mask according to the mandates of the protocol of the toolkit that the state puts in place. So just want to thank you, those of you that are out there that have them on. Thank you for that. Adoption of agenda, Superintendent Perez, your recommendation, and is there any changes?
Sir, Mr. President, Board, good evening, everyone. I recommend that we adopt the agenda as presented this evening.
Okay, I need a motion tonight.
So moved. Leon Sandoval.
Need a second.
Second.
Richard, roll call.
Dr. Garcia, Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Richard Jones,
Yes.
We got you, Emma.
Yes.
John Ortiz.
Yes. Adoption of the minutes of August 17th, 2021, your recommendation, Mr. Perez.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board, I recommend that we adopt the minutes of August 17th as presented.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Dr. Garcia, Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Richard Jones,
Aye.
Yes.
John Sandoval.
Aye.
John Ortiz.
Yes. Recognitions tonight, Superintendent Perez.
Mr. President, Board, there are no formal recognitions this evening.
Okay. Citizens to address the board. We have 9 people tonight that will be addressing the board. Board president shall be responsible for recognizing speakers, maintaining proper order, and adhering to a time limit of 30 minutes for all presentations and a maximum of 5 minutes per speaker. In order to ensure that each individual has the opportunity to address, the board may also set a time limit of less than 5 minutes for individual speakers based upon the length of the comment period and number of requests received. Since there are 9 citizens tonight, the time must be limited to 3 minutes per person. Remember that the board cannot respond to the comments, but will ask superintendent to look into these concerns. With that, I'm going to start off with Crystal Clausen. You want to come up to the podium there and address the board?
Time to start.
Right now.
Okay. So I'm Crystal Clausen and I'm pissed because I feel like a lot of you have not done research at all on these stupid masks. Zero evidence supports that it is effective from stopping the spread of COVID. Children have almost no chance of dying from COVID, but let's put masks on them. You could probably shit your pants easier than catching COVID and dying from it as a child. But nobody's in diapers today, are we? No, but keep the mask on because it's important. Let me tell you what the mask does for you. It can cause physiological dangers like hypoxia and hypercapnia. So that's low oxygen, high carbon dioxide. Do any of you have children with a narrow airway? Because I have a son who can't breathe already. Put that on his face and it just makes it a little bit harder. So if anyone wants to wake up at 3 a.m. and go to the ER with me, that would be great. The residue in the face mask cause bacterial and germ components on the inner and outside layers of the mask. The toxic components are repeatedly rebreathed into the body, causing cell contamination. Breathing through the face mask also increases the temperature and humidity in the space between the mouth and the mask, which results in toxic particles from the mask materials. A systematic review estimates that aerosol contamination levels of face masks include 13 to over 200,000 different viruses. Breathing this air with high bacterial and toxic particle concentrations, along with low oxygen and high carbon dioxide levels, continuously challenge the body's homeostasis, causing cell toxicity and immunosuppression. As we suggested, there's also psychological side effects, which is depression, anxiety, fear. It really hypes up the stress level. And I have 3 kids who you guys can try to deal with at home with a very high stress level that they didn't have before the masks. You can call me a liar, I don't know. My ability to parent my own children has become non-existent these days because I don't know shit. And which brings me to my other thing is, we spoke with you about our son last year about holding it back, and he decided it was a terrible idea. We went against her wishes and had a great experience with Joe this year. He is thriving, being held back. Parents, we do know what's best for our children. And that's pretty much all I have. I want to take back my child's life. COVID is not the worst thing that has happened in this world. You guys are that are putting masks on and taking their freedom, and they are child away. Not all of you, just a few can't say no to That's a wrap.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Crystal. Next up is Courtney Clausen.
Thanks for the opportunity for us to support. Three children in grant school schools. Kindergarten, sixth grade, eighth grade. Nothing more important to me in school than children. That's why I seek out these advances. So first, I'd like to take just a few moments and cite all the evidence-backed research that states masks in our children is safe and effective. But there is a scientific tests that have shown it's effective. And there's no reported cases from the student to teacher transmission. Now I'd like to some, not all evidence, but some research that states basically making a child mask up is harmful and it's ineffective. Estimates have shown that children forced to wear face coverings while in school do so for an average of 4.5 hours. Okay. The researchers discovered that CO2 levels under a child's face mask after just 3 minutes of being worn exceeded acceptable limits. OSHA has set those limits at 5,000 parts per million. One 7-year-old child had CO2 concentration of 25,000 parts per million, 5 times the allowed level. For me as an adult to go down into a confined space to perform a job, I can't be in there if it's over 5,000 parts per million. These children are at 25,000 parts per million in their face, right there. The study noted that CO2 building up in the dead space volume of the mask can lead to hypercapnia. That's too much CO2 in the bloodstream. It is pointed out that most of the complaints reported by children, such as irritability, headache, and reluctance to go to school, can be understood as consequences of elevated CO2 levels in the inhaled air. Another study published in 2021, the International Journal of Environmental Research, looked at 65 papers about face masks. Of these papers, of the 65, 44 pointed out the significant negative effects of face coverings. A group of Florida parents got their school required face masks and sent them to a lab at the University of Florida, tested, and laboratory tests found that pathogenic bacteria that causes such things as tuberculosis, pneumonia, meningitis, they all clung to the mask. This brings up the Spanish flu. You know, we once before in our history were masked up for the Spanish flu. Everybody had to wear them. Everybody was dying left and right. Well, come to find out, it was bacterial pneumonia that was killing everybody and not necessarily the Spanish flu. Then they kept pushing the mask till all the elected officials, higher ups, and all the elitists were caught in a boxing match without their masks on, packed in. Kind of sounds familiar. What we got going on today?
Yes.
We got Barack Obama's birthday party, no masks. Our dear governor, she has several of their parties, no masks. Just Nancy Pelosi, constantly, no mask. It's for us. It's not for them. Do as I say, not as I do. So don't you think if this virus was that deadly, that they would adhere to their own guidelines, their own guidance? If it was that deadly, with a 99.8 survival rate, don't you think that they would wear the masks themselves if they thought that they were really at risk? Just a thought. A new study involving over 25,000 school-aged children showed that masks are harming school children physically, psychologically, and behaviorally. revealing 24 distinct health issues associated with wearing a mask. The health issues and impairments observed in this study were found to affect 68% of masked children who are forced to wear a face covering on an average of 4.5 hours a day. The study also included 17,854 health complaints submitted by parents. Some of the health issues found in this study include increased headaches, difficulty concentrating, drowsiness or fatigue, malaise, and 25% of children developing fears, which is interesting because my son is in kindergarten this year and he cries every single day that we take him to school. He's been through pre-K, he's been through the Head Start, never a problem. Cries every day that we take him to school. 29.7% of children experience shortness of breath. My wife told you earlier that our child has a narrow airway, so has struggles breathing anyways. So now we're going to take what air he does have and we're going to reduce it and load it up with CO2. 26.4 experience dizziness, and hundreds of the participants experience accelerated respiration, tightness in the chest, weakness, and short-term impaired consciousness. Various face mask studies have proven their ineffectiveness. The U.S. Center for Disease Control, CDC, performed a study which showed that 85% of those who contracted COVID-19 in July of 2020 were all regular mask wearers. Only 3% were not. And they never wore masks. Disposable surgical masks and cloth face masks will not protect against COVID-19. The filtration efficiency of these types of masks is good for a particle above 5 microns. The coronavirus is 0.125 microns. Therefore, these masks don't protect you from the virus. It passes right through. Face masks result in low oxygen. Surgeons wearing a mask in surgery for an hour plus have shown significant reduction in blood oxygen saturation. This is relevant because our children are being made to wear face masks for much longer than that. Even reading a book with a mask on decreases blood oxygen levels to your brain. What implications does this have for developing children forced to wear masks at school? I'd say they're probably pretty bad. Then you have adverse skin reactions. Candida, yeast infection in the mouth, you're getting sores, you're getting people with cavities who never had cavities before, inflamed gums, and the list just goes on and on and on. Mask mandates may affect a child's emotional, intellectual development. Face masks, side effects, stagnate a child's natural intellectual development. It is well known that children find it hard to recognize faces up until a certain age. Mask use will further interfere with this. Is this healthy for a developing child?
No.
And so I don't know if there's just no interest in researching this. This took me about a half hour to find this information. It's all backed up, it's all cited, and it's all there. Is anybody looking at it, or are you just taking marching orders? And if that's the case, then do you really have our children's best interest in mind? So if things don't roll out the way we want them to, and we don't get rid of these masks, we are going to make as much noise as we can, and we're going to run for every seat up there until we have control of the board, and then we'll make some changes.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Next up is Chantel Garcia.
Hi, my name is Chantel Garcia. I'm a mother of 3 children who attend Grants Public Schools. I'm here today to express my concern with the opening and closing of schools every time there's a COVID case. At this point, we've been going through this for almost 2 years now with no end in sight. There will always be a case. Other schools clean and move on, but for some reason, Cibola County can't get it together, and the superintendent always feels it's best to close schools for weeks. You don't know the damage you are doing by keeping these kids out of school for a whole year and are continuing to do this back and forth. I watched my daughter cry almost every day for a year and again last week because her computer freezes up and she gets behind and she panics. This has to stop. You're doing far more harm than good to these kids, and as a parent, I am fed up with this. These kids need to stay in school. We don't have time to be standing in line for hours picking up packets or computers, trying to do schoolwork with our kids while trying to work ourselves. That's not learning. As far as the masks go, we are fed up with the mask mandates as well. It's absolutely ridiculous. I understand people have died from COVID, and that's a tragedy, but thousands of people die a year from drunk drivers. And I don't see you taking the alcohol off the shelves or taping their mouths shut so they don't take another drink. It has become more than just wearing a mask. It has turned into a sense of power, dictatorship, and bullying from some of these teachers' aides towards our children and towards teachers who decide not to get vaccinated. I don't understand why people can now choose what kind of gender they are, but you can't choose whether or not to wear a mask or whether or not to get vaccinated. Makes absolutely no sense. I understand that our stupid governor set these mandates and it's out of your hands, but the extent to which some of these aides have taken this is far beyond words and should not be allowed. This is not a law and should not have to be followed. If the parents want their kids to wear them, fine, but most of us are over it. Some of these teachers care more about the mask than actually teaching. One of the teachers had the nerve to tell my daughter not to come up for help because she carries COVID. Seriously, my daughter has never been in trouble at school. You can ask any teacher she has had. They will tell you she is a very respected student. Mr. Jackson could probably tell you himself. But this year and part of last year, my kid who attends Los Alamitos is getting detention, referrals, and being threatened daily for not wearing her mask right outside where it's not even mandated. They have threatened to take her lunch away for sharing her chips with a friend who didn't eat. Almost daily, she has to sit by a tree on her own for something as stupid as eating a sucker without her mask on. My nephew got a referral for spreading COVID Friday. We aren't real sure how. He spread COVID because he doesn't have it, but hell, let's give him a referral anyway. This has gone way too far, and I am taking this as a form of harassment and will act on it if it doesn't stop. Masks have become more than just a safety issue. They are causing physical and psychological damage. When you have a 10-year-old girl tell you she likes the mask and hopes to wear it forever because she doesn't like how she looks and wants her face covered so she doesn't have to see it, now you have problems. Some kids are now on inhalers due to the mask, along with other medical issues. What are we teaching these kids? This is not normal. Masks are also not mandated outside, so why are we having to wear them? Why can't they play basketball or football or run the track at lunch? It's like everything fun has been taken away from them because of COVID restrictions on a virus that is 99% survival rate. My daughter can't share a bag of chips, but yet transgender students can have clubs and can hug and hold hands and nobody says a word. These are things I don't understand. Kids are being told they will get their mask taped to their face if they don't keep it up, or they get a failing grade due to their mask. Their concern should be the fact that 4th and 5th graders are now reading at a 2nd to 3rd grade level, not that they pull their mask below their nose to breathe. Kinder and 1st graders aren't even learning to read because they can't see their teacher's lips to pronounce the words right. They are here to teach our kids and that alone, not to enforce masks, vaccines, or anything else. It's absolutely insane. I can't breathe for more than 20 minutes with that mask on, and these kids are constantly being yelled at to keep theirs on for hours. Many studies have shown that the masks don't even work. Other states and schools are mask-free, and we should be the same. Enough is enough. It's time you guys start standing up for our children and our rights. It seems you just listen to those on the reservation instead of people in this town. These kids need to stay in school and be taught, not bullied by teachers. They need to be kids and play, socialize, learn, and have fun. And most of all, be able to breathe. There are many teachers that feel the same way you do, but fear to lose their jobs if they speak up. So make things right, keep these kids in school, and stop pushing the masks.
Thank you, Chantel. Eric Garcia.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eric Garcia. Yeah, I mean, I echo everybody that's come up here and talked about everything with the mask and how education is happening. All I gotta say is, guys, is I've known you my whole life. 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 I don't really know you guys, but I know you guys are in a tough position, same way as I am in the city. But we all played on that football field. We all are from Grants. We know what's right. You guys gotta help me win this battle of trying to turn around Grants. I can't do it alone. Education is important to our kids and safety and health. These masks they're no good. I mean, there's no studies that's showing that masks are effective. I'm asking you guys, do the right thing, guys. Come on. Enough's enough. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Eric. Jesse Mandargan.
Hello, how are you guys doing? I'm Jessie Mondragon. I'm a woman of many hats. I ran 2 businesses. I work in the fitness and wellness industry. I'm an actress, I'm a blogger. None of that really matters, but more importantly, the role that matters the most is that I am a parent of a toddler. And no, she's not in school, but I'm here to support these children. I'm here to speak for them, and I'm here to support my family that's here. I'm just a child of God speaking to other children of God. Okay, more times than not, this is just a special occasion. I'm dressed nice, but more times than not, on daily, I look like I'm attacked by seagulls just chasing around my daughter. So it's a special occasion. But anyways, with a strong wellness and health background, I can clearly see through the veil. We're 18 months in this, and it's clear as day that these masks and vaccines, they're just not working. And now we have the science, and now we have the proof that is proving that. And of course, I'm not going to say all the things they were saying just to save time. I don't want to waste your guys' time. But I do have a list for you guys here to share. I'm not going to go through it word for word, but this is just a nice list of studies and links that everyone can look into. And I highly suggest it. And like Eric said, I know you guys are in a tough place and have to follow rules and policies. I get that. But if there is any way we can step aside this and at least let our kids sit at the desks without the masks. I mean, it doesn't make any sense that I can go in with my nieces and nephews and sit at a restaurant at the table, side by side, close, and they can take off their masks there, but they can't take off their masks at their desk in school. It's the same thing. I don't know if that makes sense, and I'm surely, like anyone with half a brain, that would make sense. That is just unlawful. That is nasty, and the science is there. It just doesn't work. It's not proving. FDA alone mentions that masks cannot be that have been proven for that cannot prove antiviral protection. On the box alone, it says that they cannot prevent the spread of disease or infection. And Dr. Anthony Fauci, the man himself, he had claimed in an email in February of 2020 that the store-bought face masks would not work or be very effective at protecting against the COVID-19 pandemic. The virus particles itself would pass through the mask. Again, we already know this by Mr. Clausen's claim. The CDC, however, still recommends it for us to be wearing masks, which we're not in an emergent state of law anymore. It's just merely a recommendation. So I understand that like rules and policies, we have to follow what the government says. But if there is any chance we can challenge them and ask for the power to be put in our hands, in our local district, where the numbers are fairly low, especially in our children. We're not just prohibiting their education and you know, causing more harm than good. Like we are breaking their spirits. These are our children. They are ours to protect. And all they want to do is just be normal. And it is our job to do what's right by them, even if it's unpopular, even if it's against our normal norms and our rules, and we might lose our jobs. Who is speaking up for them? As parents, we have to. And we come peacefully now, but who knows later on down the line, more and more parents are gonna wake up to this. And if I'm not mistaken, like some of these chairs are, you guys are elected. You know, more and more parents are gonna wake up to this and make noise. So why not get ahead? Why not make Cibola make a stand in New Mexico and try to do something right, try to do something good for these children and these parents that are bringing more concerns? Again, Mr. Clausen mentioned a lot of the harms that brings with these masks and what it does to these children. Straight up, that is child abuse, what we are doing to these kids. They're trusting us to do what's right. We're the leaders. We have to do what's right for them. And I thank you for your time, and I'm sorry if I went over your time, but if I am allowed to leave these guidelines with you, I would love to do so. Again, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Jesse. Thomas Jackson.
I'm not here to talk about masks, but we're following the guidelines for restaurants. I wore my mask in my seat, took it off when I was gonna put something in my face. I wanted to get into what I think about masks for our governor. You have on your agenda, oh, thank you, let me talk. Most of you know I've spent more time on your side of that thing than that side, so I haven't been before the board 20 years. That was for retirement of your former business manager, Nancy Buffett, passed away. ROTC is on your agenda. I understand you can't respond to me directly by my comments. And I really would rather say my comments to hear what you guys are going to discuss about ROTC, but I'll go ahead and address it. And some of this is opinion. And my opinion is that you committed, not you, but there was a tragedy committed when ROTC was gotten rid of in the school. And I know we're going to hear a lot of explanations, but the fact of the matter is the program was killed either by mismanagement or intentional. I personally think it was intentional. I don't think it was supported by the high school administration, and that it was killed. But also I have concern that there have been rules, regulations, and board policies violated by how it was handled. Your board policy, thanks for keeping those online and accessible. A little hard to find, but we started that when I was superintendent, where anybody in the community can look at their board policies and research it. But your board policy, IGD 1-1050 curriculum adoption, states very clearly that all new programs, course study to the board must be approved, as well as elimination of programs or any extensive alterations of those programs. And so when the gym was taken away from the ROTC and given it to the wrestling program, that was a major alteration to the curriculum. My understanding from Ron is it never came to the board. That you had took no action on eliminating the program, eliminating that building or anything else. So we have a real problem there. You also have violated the contract with the Marine Corps. And I was superintendent when we tore down South Campus. We had a protest from some teachers about asbestos in their classrooms. We tore the thing down. The one building they allowed us to keep was the ROTC building. And that exception was made for the ROTC because they had gone in there, cleaned it up, and created a facility that nobody wanted at the time. I guarantee that if football had been arbitrarily eliminated without board approval, you guys would see a packed auditorium here regardless of masks. Same with cheerleading, basketball, even wrestling, which took over the building where ROTC is. You guys, I think George probably talked about this, but you violated the contract for failing to secure and maintain the equipment that the Marine Corps provided. Throwing that in an office space over there, taking over the lockers that were assigned to ROTC kids, you're in clear violation. I'm not sure who, I'm not even trying to blame anyone. But every other program in the school, if a teacher doesn't show up, they hire substitute. They keep the program going. You don't throw them out of the gym or out of the ROTC building, then not hire a substitute, put them in a PE class and say, too bad. The information I have is that the high school principal told Gunny that they were going away with the program. Now, he may say that Gunny's a liar and Gunny's going to say he's a liar, but one thing is never been a principal I know. When you get two totally different explanations for a problem, somebody's a liar. I had no idea why the Gunny would want to be a liar. I've talked to him. He said if this thing gets straightened out, he'll come back. So don't tell me you can't find an instructor. You know, you're advertising. But there are people who would have come in and substituted in that classroom and kept the program going. Those senior kids know how to do the drills and the practices. That was a program that won national attention for our school district. National attention. I don't think we've ever had a football team bring national attention. I also have a big concern that none of this was brought up to the community before it was decided to kill a program that so many of us support. Most of you know I'm retired Army. I got shot up in Vietnam, got retired, became a teacher, school principal, and superintendent. My son went through the ROTC program the whole time he was here. A lot of the kids in the ROTC program are not football players, basketball players, or wrestlers, but they are patriots. And they found something that met their need, and they worked hard for it. Throughout the years, I have seen where the district has failed to provide for the ROTC program the way they do for other programs. That's in the contract. I've seen them have to go out and raise money to go to a national competition or be denied the right to go to a national competition that they earned. So, all due respect, I certainly hope that you just reestablish the program. I think it's real simple. I've talked to the superintendent here about it. You know, give them the building back, get it back in there. Tell wrestling is all right, but that's not what that building is. Put the program back in place, get the kids back in the program, get a substitute in there, get a full-time crew. Do what you have to do with Laguna Academy. When I was here, we had two full-time programs, one here and one at Laguna, and they didn't have to travel back. So somewhere along the line, the ROTC program has been neglected and mismanaged to the point where my understanding was you had people running back and forth trying to do both programs. So I'd like to see you bring it back, do the right thing. You need to look at your board policies and find out who made those kind of changes without going according to board policy. Thank you for your time. I don't envy you.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Tom. Sean Ray. Are you up? See you on there.
Don't see his name up here.
Okay. He's not there. Okay, let's go with Governor Martin Kowami.
I don't see his name up, Mr. President.
Okay. How about Governor Martin Kolami? Are you there?
No, that's
He's
you
not
just
there.
said. His name, no, that's what you just said.
Yeah.
He's not up there.
He's, oh, was that? I thought they were still talking about Sean Wright. Okay, next up, we got George Garcia. You're here.
I'd like to hand out some of the memorandums of agreement that Mr. Jackson was talking about. Said, my name is George Garcia. I've been the ROTC instructor for 19 years here at Grants High School. I was born and raised in this town. I was a product of the ROTC program. As a matter of fact, Earl Chavez, who's pictured up there, him and his brother Elmer were in the first JROTC program at this high school. And I'm the one that wrote the letter to the editor, probably started up a lot of controversy. I don't like to do business that way. That's why I asked to speak to the board in person. But I knew if I didn't write the letter, it would just fade away and everybody be asking what happened to the program. The thing is, someone in the district took actions that started the downhill slide of the JROTC programs. As Mr. Jackson said, and that's why I gave you copies of the memorandum of agreement with the facilities there. This agreement, and on page 9, there is minimal facilities, and we had more than that. But the last line on there states that areas that exceed minimum areas are to be maintained until a new memorandum of agreement is written. So that should have never been changed. The other violation was not allowing Gunny Hollins in there this summer to inventory the uniforms. That's a requirement we have to do it every year. That's federal property. $120,000 to $170,000 worth of federal property that the school said they would take care of. He was not allowed in there. He contacted the principal, I can't get you a key, for 3 months. When I was there, I broke a key off in the lock. Jackie Jones had me a brand new key in 15 minutes from maintenance. So tell me something wasn't going on there. He got access to it when Lieutenant Colonel Caruth, the regional director, and Captain Collinsworth came down. He didn't have time to fix up the facilities. I was sitting at that meeting with Mr. Widener, and we discussed taking over the program. The captain called me. He goes, George, I want to do this. I want you to help me with drill. Would you be willing to do that? I said, sure, whatever you need. See, Captain Collinsworth's father was already sick when he came to apply. That wasn't an issue. I talked to him about silver linings, about the Good Samaritan Center, resources in a small community where his father would be taken care of. I told him to drive up to North Hills where he could get a home for half the price he was going to buy in Rio Rancho. He chose to come here because he said he came from an underdeveloped community himself. He's a white guy, but he's married to a Dominican. He speaks full Spanish, both him and his wife. His wife was willing to teach in the district. And what changed his mind? When we walked back, they did call and you did meet with him. And that's where I was kind of misunderstood, because we walked back, we called the superintendent. He was going to be at lunch, he couldn't meet with him. And a lot of things are said under the breath or off the record that professionally they wouldn't tell you. But when we walked back into that building, and myself and Colonel Caruth saw what had happened, because he had just inspected me the year before. That building was perfect. It had to be once a year. They even inspected us. They weighed us and everything else. Every item was inventoried. He'd go count the uniforms to make sure we had everything. When we walked in that building and saw the flags thrown in a room, the Marine Corps ball ceremonial items thrown in there, and most of those had to be thrown away. Those belonged to us, not the Marine Corps. The students paid for those. The families paid for those. Those wall lockers were donated by the National Guard. But once he saw that, he looked at me and he said, what happened? myself nor Gunnery Sergeant Hollins had any idea what happened. Who made that call? We talked to some members up here and they're like, we didn't approve this. Again, the principal didn't know what was going on. Who did? Somebody made the call to do that. If they didn't want the program, why didn't they just say, Marine Corps, come and get your stuff? And we respectfully could have removed it, not just tossed to one side. Gunny Hollins had to throw out half of that stuff because it was no longer usable. Whoever made the call to move it and whoever did the moving did that. And that's why I was so upset and passionate about it when I made the call. Gunnery Sergeant Hollins went to help Captain Collinsworth. He's teaching up at Cibola High School. You could go over there. And he asked him, he talked to them because they were getting their color guards ready for the football game. And he said, the main reason I didn't go to that school district was because the way they were treating me. That's what he told him. And I believe it. The regional director, I worked for 5 regional directors. Colonel Caruth was the last one. 5 superintendents, 4 principals in the time I've been here. The regional director is a businessman. He's responsible for all the JROTCs from the Texas-New Mexico border west to include Okinawa, Japan, Guam, and Alaska. So if he could put a captain for the same amount of money at Cibola High School that has 2,000 students and 180 cadets guaranteed, or in grants, or they don't even want him here, it's a no-brainer. You as businessmen know, hey, I'm gonna put my man over there. And that's exactly what happened. And that's what bothers me most. And like Mr. Jackson said, why didn't they hire Gunny Hollins? There's nowhere in the memorandum of agreement you're gonna see that he had to work at Laguna. And both programs are now in jeopardy. They could have hired him here, but he told me the same thing. And I'll believe John because he's a Baptist minister. Why wouldn't you acquiesce to his religious doings because he didn't want to get the vaccine? That's what I didn't understand. He was in tears when he talked to me before he left. It's like, George, I don't want to leave, but they're not going to hire me. Well, if we would have hired him, we would still have a program. We will go on probation. After 2 years on probation, they'll do away with the program. Yes, they're saying, oh yeah, we're trying to get, they're doing what they have to do. You can read it in there. Their job is to post it on the national website. That's been posted since I was there because we only had 2 enlisted. We were working on a waiver for 20 years. When Sergeant Major Varela left, that waiver went away and they started looking for an officer. We were going to have an officer here for the first time in 20 years. And as anyone that served in the military can tell you, a lieutenant colonel is way up there. He doesn't want to deal with kids. If any of you seen the movie Major Payne, you know what I'm talking about. This was a captain who was a former enlisted. He was willing to get in there. He was a former cadet himself from Florida. He was willing to be here. But for some reason, they found a reason not to let him get away. That's the reason I wrote that letter, because I know what's going to happen. When off the cuff, the colonel makes a remark, I'm content just to let it die on the vine. Centennial High School wants these resources. They will guarantee him 200 cadets for the same amount of money. So again, that's why I made those comments. And if anyone has any questions for me, I'll entertain them. I don't know if you could take questions, but that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Thank you, everyone, for your comments tonight. We'll move on to presentations. Lieutenant Perez, Marine Junior Officer Training Corps and JROTC.
Okay, can you see the screen okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
These guys can't.
Can we turn it over?
Can we turn that to?
If we're gonna do an ROTC, let's let them look at it.
I think that's good. Okay, so as you can probably guess by now, there's been some challenges with the junior Marine Corps Junior ROTC program. And I just wanted to share some thoughts and talk to everyone about the development and how things have evolved and where they're at today. So the Grand Cebolla County Schools Marine Junior ROTC carries years of success, along with many local, state, regional awards, and I think most of you know about that, as well as being nationally recognized. And thank you very much to all the former officers and instructors, and it's good to have Mr. Garcia with us this evening. Mr. Martin, is that advancing? Okay. I think went too far ahead. Okay, the ROTC was given the privilege to have Laguna Acoma High School operate as a satellite program, a branch of Grants High School. When I was talking to Lieutenant Colonel Caruth, he explained that he wasn't even sure how that happened, but was impressed that it did happen. So in a sense, they were given special permission to have that satellite program. So special permissions were given to operate through this configuration with the stipulation that an officer would lead the program. So after thorough searches, the district was not able to find qualified officers. And I think I'm missing a slide there. So since the departures of Sergeant Major Barella, that happened before I got here, and then Gunnery Sergeant George Garcia, who's here this evening, I was only here for a short time with him. The continuation of the program found its challenges in the fall of 2019 due to the lack of qualified staff. We did immediately and throughout the time with the former HR director, myself, and in conversation with the Lieutenant Colonel Caruth, search for an officer or even a non-officer that can help us keep the program alive alongside Gunnery Sergeant John Hollins. Gunny Hollins continued the program without an officer in place, which was also a special permission. And I needed to be clear that throughout all of these challenges, the ROTC program has consistently been funded. It's a part of our budget. We fully have budgeted an officer and non-officer positions for the program. And we continue today to budget and fully fund the program. Funding continues to be available for the supplies, equipment, materials needed for the full operation. Continuous advertisements and recruitment efforts continue as they have since the 2 retirements. Sign-on bonuses have been made available and continue to be. Here's one of the ads that we have out and have had out. We, the district, continue to communicate with Lieutenant Colonel Caruth, and we work diligently to continue the search and recruitment of instructors, and particularly an officer. The district has followed up on all leads, but has still not been able to acquire an ROTC instructor nor an officer. 2022 school year started with Gunnery Sergeant John Hollins, who resigned in August, and what was reported to me is for personal reasons. Lieutenant Colonel Caruth once again allowed us an extension of time. We now have been afforded the opportunity with 1-year sabbaticals to continue to search and find an instructor and or an officer to maintain the program throughout this coming school year. It was also communicated that we cannot continue the program at Laguna Acoma High School. A temporary sharing of the gym was set up because the wrestling boys and girls did not have a place to practice with the appropriate space and water availability. Another factor in that is that we had a couple of girls that joined the wrestling team, which we didn't have in the past. So the facility was just not appropriate. Sharing the space caused concern for the administration. Placed the ROTC in one of the rooms at the high school. Found that wasn't working either because they were kicking holes in the sheetrock. So the decision was made to put them in the gym that wasn't being fully used as a temporary fix. So the primary issue that faced ROTC program is the lack of instructor and officers, and that continues today. We did not eliminate the program. We have no plans to eliminate the program. We want to continue the program. The problem with having the wrestling team use the gym in the evenings was a temporary situation and not intended as long-term. Immediately upon realizing the levels of concern with the wrestling team and their equipment, it has been removed. And those are just some comments that I thought needed to be shared. Mr. President, that's all I have.
So what we mentioned was, can a substitute be used in that program, or, I mean, would the Marine Corps allow something like that?
A substitute can be used, but for the complexities of this program, I'm not sure if we could find a substitute that could handle. If we have a substitute that can keep the program alive, we would definitely look into that.
What would the qualifications be?
You'd probably ask a Marine Corps officer more than you would ask me that question, but.
Asking Garcia.
Yeah, I just don't know what the qualifications would be.
I've had about 3 or 4 students ask me, could I be a substitute? There's no one more qualified than the former students. They ran it when I was there. Now they're in their 20s and 30s. They would be perfect for it. The only thing is the Marine Corps won't pay for it.
Right.
Whereas they pay half the instructor's salary, that's a position that is a substitute position. But before I got here, when first Sergeant Madison was the instructor, his wife was a permanent sub there helping him. So it's not without precedent, it's been done before. But a former student, and there's hundreds of them in this town that are willing to do it.
I know there was a gentleman that retired out of Gallup, but it was the Army ROTC program that lives here in the community. I don't know if that would be.
He could be a substitute again, anyone could, but to be a Marine Corps JROTC instructor, they do need to be a retired Marine. Yes.
But as a substitute, so that would be definitely.
But I know some even have working in the district as referees and stuff. Jonathan Valenzuela, he called and asked me. There's others that have asked me about it. Jeremy Hawker, he's security. He was quickly shot down once he asked if he could substitute. So, yeah, that's viable up here, but down at the ground level, you have other thoughts going on.
Mr. Jones.
Well, let's see. There's been this is what I know. I'll speak for myself.
No, you can't do that.
I can speak for myself. I can absolutely speak for myself. Here I go, speaking as Richard Wade Jones. I'll tell you what I think about the ROTC program in the past and the future. I know there are some students that have gone through there that probably would not have graduated high school otherwise. That struggled through, for sure would not have graduated high school otherwise. They've struggled through the way their family life, the way they were raised, and they've gone on to be successful in Marines, but I've said that 100 times. I am not okay with
he said this on Facebook, and he said this, so-and-so said this, because none of that's real. It riles the country or riles the city up. But I mean, I get stuff on Facebook messaging me, can't believe you guys decided to close the ROTC program. I promise you this board, school board, again, just speaking for me, as far as I know, this school board did not squash the ROTC program. There's also some he said on whether one wanted to take the job in Grants rather than Laguna. But irrelevant, past the point, I think we need to try to find somebody and get this ROTC program. And I do know they've cleaned that, the ROTC building, there's nothing in them, which also doesn't do some other students good either. I hate to see an empty building, period. It needs to have an ROTC program in it. I'm not saying that, but I'm all for the wrestling program to have something they need. I'm not against everybody getting along. I want all of our students to succeed. So let's, again, speaking for myself, let's get a substitute and let's try to get, I know we've remedied the gymnasium or the ROTC building. Let's remedy the teacher and let's start this program as quick as we can.
And so, Mr. President, board, so just so you know, we're fully, everybody I know, the administration and the board are fully behind the program. And if there's anything we can do, including hiring a substitute teacher to keep it going, we're very open to that.
Mr. Ortiz, Board President Ortiz.
Yes, Mr. Archambault, go ahead.
Yes. Greetings to my to Tom Jackson. Are you still there?
Still here. Go ahead, Rich.
Extend my greetings to you and your family.
Thank you.
I have 4 of my grandchildren who have gone through ROTC. 2 of them are in active service. One of them is a female who drives a Bradley, Tom. And the other one was in Afghanistan for 2 tours, corpsman. And you know, Gunny, what that means. You took fire within 3 hours of getting into Afghanistan. Been a tough road to hoe. And my other 2 grandchildren, they went through ROTC. Not in New Mexico, but in Arizona. And their programs have had some difficulty, ups and downs. So I recognize ups and downs of these things. The reason I said that is because I don't think there's been a time when I have not supported and took pleasure in watching the dignity and the integrity of our young boys and girls participating in the ROTC. And Gunny Hollins has been a close friend of mine. And so I extend my disappointment that he's not here, but I wish him well. We will do, the board has always been consistent in its support of the ROTC and will continue to do so. We will do whatever it is that we need to do to ensure that we take care of that. And that's what the kids want. They don't want us arguing, they don't want us fighting, they want us to find a solution. So we need to find solutions that are acceptable to the Marines. And I'm not sure how long it'll take, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to get the program back as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Is that it, Superintendent?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll move to presentation B, American Rescue Plan, ARP.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, board. So the next item is a short presentation on an update on the American Rescue Plan funds. Mr. Maldonado, are you on? Can't hear you there. Still muted. Nothing yet? It doesn't show you're muted, but we can't hear you.
How about now? Can you hear me?
There you are.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Mr. President, members of the board, thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen and just give you an update on where we are with the American Rescue Plan next steps, presentation on the next steps here. As you remember, back in July, we made 11 presentations to various stakeholder groups, and we are in the throes of ready to make our next presentation starting next Monday regarding the round 2. So in the first presentation, what we did was we detailed how the funding works, what kind of responsibility the district had with soliciting ideas before we started to make any plans for any allocations. We took those presentations and people answered a questionnaire. About 100 people responded. We then grouped them into various groups here and prepared some proposals that we're going to be giving out to the audiences starting Monday the 13th at 3:30. We're going with our GCCS staff first that Monday, and then we also have a presentation that will be inviting families to come to hear that same presentation. Here's our schedule for the next week. We're going to be going through, of course, the various stakeholders, the businesses and employers, post-secondary partners, the Navajo Families Group, and then we have one for the Navajo leadership, Laguna families, Laguna leadership, Acoma families, and Acoma leadership as well. So everyone will hear the same presentation. We have a 3-question, so far a 3-question response that we're going to be asking for response after that. And just to be clear, the American Rescue Plan, even though we did a bar for it last board meeting, we haven't submitted our funding requests yet for anything because nothing's cast in stone. So we haven't even begun to spend any of this money. And in fact, if you remember a previous report that I gave, we had the CARES money, which is the first allocation, and we have the Carissa funds, which is the second one, and now the ARP funds. And after talking with the state and federal government, they of course wanted us to exhaust the CARES money, which we've done. And now they want us to start on the Carissa money, which we have barely begun to touch that. And so no plans will be made to spend the ARP money until we fully encumbered the Carissa funds. So these funds are just now being touched, the Carissa funds. Meanwhile, the ARP funds are still out there waiting for the proposals for us to hear back from our constituents and then offer to the board as well what those proposals will be. So that's where we stand with this. I invite anyone who's listening to participate in the GCCS families or any one of these groups. And if you can't participate in the particular meeting that we're going to have, then of course we'll videotape it and you'll get to watch it and still have an opportunity to respond to those questions. That's an update. Are there any questions I can answer for anyone?
Any comments, questions from the board? Okay, thank you, Mr. Maldonado.
Yes, of course.
Let's move on to action items. Action item 8 tonight, consideration of approval for phase 2 fire alarm at Laguna Acoma High School. Your recommendation, Mr. Perez?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, board. I do recommend that we approve the phase 2 fire alarm at Laguna Acoma High School.
Okay, with that, I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Need a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. Lee, are you on to give us an overview?
Sure. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Perez. This is phase 2 of the Laguna fire alarm system. Phase 2 actually is an international fire code requirement to address the voice evacuation upgrade. We have already completed phase 1, which is your general panel with the strobes and the sound, but this is part of a new code that's required. The amount of the that we're asking for your approval is $147,338.15.
Any questions, comments from the board? If not, roll call.
Dr. Garashambo, Dr. Guy, Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes,
Richard Jones,
yes,
John Sandoval,
Yes.
Don Ortiz.
Yes, motion passes. Now, action item B, consideration of approval to purchase student activity buses. Your recommendation, Mr. Perez?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board, I do recommend that we approve the purchase of 2 student activity buses.
Okay, with that, I need a motion.
So move.
Need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion. Mr. Perez?
Yes, Mr. Lee,
I'll take.
Mr. Maldonado, this is yours.
Of course. So thank you, members of the board, Mr. President, members of the board. I do want to bring this before you. Earlier this year, the legislature passed an omnibus bill funding many projects throughout the state. One of them was $200,000 allocation from the state in this omnibus bill to the Grand Cibolo County School District to fund one or as many buses as we could purchase for the $200,000. So we're asking the board to approve or at least to accept this award letter. Secondly, we have a purchase requisition in place ready for your review and approval as well for actually purchasing 2 of the buses. 200,000 of this, so the total amount we're asking for is $370,944.66. Their buses are just over $185,000 each. $200,000 of that payment will be made directly from the omnibus allocation that we received, and the remaining $170,944.66 will be paid for out of the wind farm money. Once we purchase that, if you approve it tonight, that fund, the wind farm money, will still have approximately $1.2 million in its fund balance. And in that fund balance, every year around April or May, we receive another $340,000 as payment in lieu of taxes for the wind farm. So we're asking for approval of $370,944.66, as well as the acceptance of the appropriation from the legislature.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions from the board?
Yeah, just a quick question. It says custom paint and graphics. What are we doing?
Well, the buses come white or a blank color. And of course, the activity buses, we want to be able to wrap with the logos of the schools. And so that includes the wrap and the paint in order to make a statement as we arrive to the different schools in which we participate.
Mr. President, Board, so we want to make the
Lost sound.
I'm sorry, I don't hear anything, Mr. Prez.
okay, I think I got muted.
Dr. Garashambo,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes,
Richard Jones,
yes,
John Sandoval,
Yes.
Don Ortiz.
All right. That motion passes. Action item C tonight, consideration of approval to purchase Mac books for the Mac Lab at Grants High School. Your recommendation, Mr. Perez?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board, I do recommend that we approve the purchase of Mac books for the Mac Lab at Grants High School. And just to point out that Mac should not have a K on it. It's a Mac Lab. That's okay. So I do recommend that we approve this purchase.
Okay, with that, I need a motion.
So move.
Need a second.
Second.
Discussion.
I believe we have Mr. Griner on.
Should be for the next.
Both of them.
For the computers.
Maybe Mr. Maldonado, if you can talk about this one.
Yes, of course. Members of the board, Mr. President, again, we want to bring to you a purchase that Mr. Griner has been working very hard. Of course, Mr. Griner is the director of the band at Grants and media at Grants High School. He's working very, very hard to significantly upgrade the media and band performances and curriculum and equipment over at Grants High School. This includes a lot of media presentations, videos. As you know, he sponsors Angry Jack Productions. He's done just a marvelous job. It really is asking the board to approve state-of-the-art equipment, which is also an industry standard in terms of production, in rendering videos, all of that using these equipment, as well as the software such as ProStart and the Pro app that's used to edit the videos. And so we're asking for the board to approve the purchase of these equipment so that we can get those online and get this started. You know, it's not a Windows-based program, but the technology department has gone to training to make sure that they can support this. And we want to be able to support Mr. Griner and the efforts at the Grants High School in order, again, to significantly raise the caliber of media presentations as well as the type of curriculum that's being offered at the school.
Any comments, questions from the board?
Mr. Maldonado, I'm looking at the, there is a Bombs Music Company. Is that what we're referring to?
No, this is the Apple Inc. This is the equipment for the media. The music company is the next item on the agenda, sir.
I apologize. Okay, I didn't know it was both for both. No questions.
Okay, with that, roll call.
Dr. Garcia,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Richard Jones,
Aye.
Yes.
Sandoval,
Yes.
Don Ortiz.
Aye. Motion passes. Action item D tonight, consideration of approval to purchase new and replacement band instruments. Your recommendation, Mr. Perez.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, board, I do recommend that we approve the purchase of new and replacement band instruments. Yeah,
Okay. Okay, I need a motion.
So move.
Need a second.
Second.
Discussion.
we do have Mr. Griner on now.
I'm here.
We can hear you.
So, okay, so thank you for the help at the computer lab. We're excited about continuing to grow the Angry Jack Productions program. Mr. Gonzalez and his media classes have been a big part of that as well. On the band instruments, for at least since I've been here, we have purchased instruments over the years, but we haven't had a wholesale thing. We've had some instruments as old as 60 years old. Some of those instruments my mom played when she was in the high school band. So we've repaired them as much as we can, and now we have this opportunity. So we'd like to upgrade our instrument supply and equipment for the students at both Grants High School, Los Alamitos Middle School, and the other music programs in the district.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Griner. Any questions, comments from the board?
Yeah, it's about time.
It's about time.
Yeah, let's get them. And our band is a great success program. Yeah, let's buy them. Let's buy them now.
With that, I need a motion.
I'll make the first motion to approve.
Need a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Dr. Garcia,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Yes.
Sandoval,
Yes.
Don Ortiz.
All right. Consent agenda tonight. Superintendent, that is your recommendation.
And Mr. President, board, I recommend that we approve the items in the consent agenda as presented this evening.
Okay, with that, I need a motion.
Shambo moves.
Okay, I'll do second. I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Okay. Any discussion on consent agenda? If not, we'll do roll call. You're welcome.
Dr. Garcia,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Bailey,
Yes. Yes.
Richard
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Jan Sandoval,
Yes.
Don Ortiz.
All right. Superintendent's report. Superintendent Perez.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board. So the first, just update, the COVID, what we've been referring to as a reentry plan for the last year and a half. We've had to constantly modify, and whether we brought it to the board here and there and back and forth. And that continues to evolve. We want to change it to reentry plan because I think that's kind of outlived its life to just calling it a COVID response protocol manual. That's one thing that we're going to change. The other thing that they just need to make the board aware of is that we have to submit a plan for the district on how we respond to that. We do have a COVID response team that we do our best to follow the safety protocols and respond to all the cases. We have some requirements to report things to the state within a certain amount of time. So remember the team has a different role. Well, one of them is Sonia Hernandez, our health coordinator, is a big part of it. So a lot of it is getting the reports from the school, responding appropriately, and then reporting all of that information to the state. So that's changing, just letting you know that that's one of the other changes is that's coming up is we're going to have to give a scale of how we respond to the number of cases at each school. So in other words, and every district, I think in the state is doing the same thing, where you have a response at different stages of the number of reports from each school, which we're going to be very thoughtful with it. I think it's safe to say that none of us want to close schools down. That is not that we want to do just the opposite. And so everything that we do, we want to be thoughtful enough so that we can continue to keep those schools open in any way we can. So there's still just informing the board that we're still working on revising that manual. We'll be bringing it back to the board as soon as we get some more.
So who all like you say, we're trying to comply, who are we trying to be compliant with?
The state.
Just the state?
Just the state.
Okay, because we're compliant to the Laguna governor, because we can't let any teachers out there without vaccination.
Thank you. Yes, we
do. No, hold on. So who's on that? Who's the we that we're talking about that is putting these implicating our protocols?
Okay. So public education department has some very specific criteria that we have to follow, and we do follow it. As far as like Laguna Pueblo closing down, requiring vaccinations, we have nothing to do with that. We don't have the authority to require vaccinations.
No, thank goodness we don't have the authority to require. But if they're going to govern our school out there, because obviously we're not the governing body there if we can't have people come. I mean, we're a school district that is struggling to get teachers anyway. Now we're telling teachers they can't come to work. I would be the first one to make the motion. They can have that school. We'll sweep it up on the way out. You guys go ahead and have it. They're governing it anyway. I'm not joking at all. Please, 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 if you guys think you run that school better than we can, y'all might as well have it. Like I said, it's a nice school and we'll make it clean, and we'll lock the doors and pitch y'all the keys. Because it's crazy that we're listening to a body that's not governing this school district. I understand we're beholden to the PED. And I understand the PED is beholden to the governor and the governor is beholden to the teachers union. I get all that. But how in the world we're in a school district that has troubles getting teachers right now and we kick some of them out, which has something to do with the ROTC program as well, the forced vaccinations. I want to be on that team. I want to be part of the decision making or the compliant. We got some parents right here that have valid points. have researched and done studies. I can show you 47 studies that says that a mask does not work, another 30 that says that it's harmful to our kids. Kids are getting in trouble for sharing chips. Let me tell you what, if my kid was in school and there was somebody didn't have food, my kid better give them some.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what they're supposed to do. I mean, I can show you.
Point of order, we are not to address the concerns of public comment.
I'm not addressing their
That's exactly
concerns.
what you're doing.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you
I
are.
am saying we have some parents here
You're voicing your.
and we could have 50 more parents here next time. We could have 100 more parents here next time.
On a decision, we're addressing the concerns of the public comments. We need to make a decision not to address those concerns.
I am addressing the superintendent right now. And you can holler all you want, I'm still addressing the superintendent.
During public comment. You're addressing the concerns that were brought up during the public comment.
No, I am addressing the superintendent and I'm not gonna argue. I'm addressing the superintendent. I would like to be on some of that. Is there a board presence on our COVID response?
There is not currently.
But we let an outside government in?
They're not part of that either.
Sounds to me like they're a little bit part of it.
They're not part of the COVID response team.
No, but we're compliant to them, is the point I'm saying.
Not the team, but the district that we have been, we have not allowed staff there that's they have not allowed staff there that's unvaccinated.
Right.
We didn't make that call. I told them.
No, I'm not saying we did. Please don't misunderstand. And I'm not addressing the public. I'm addressing I'm telling you, there could be a larger public gathering each and every time we have a meeting. I mean, and as a board member, when somebody asks me, what are you guys doing about it? We're not doing anything about it. We don't have a seat at that table. Do we, Mr. President, do we?
I don't believe we do.
I mean, I love that we have a COVID response team, but the governing body, which is us, we don't have a seat there.
Yeah,
We have nothing to say about
And
it.
that is valid. I mean, to get somebody, regardless if it's Richard or somebody else, to be part of that and to be part of the dialogue and the discussion.
And I think with all due respect, I think it's two different things. I think the board needs to have a conversation with the Laguna government.
I'd love to.
Because I don't have the authority to stop people at the border. They do, to go enter and exit the Pueblo. I have limited authority. The board has.
No, and with every bit due respect, that's what I'm saying. If they're gonna govern us anyway, they can have it. I mean, we're not in control, obviously. I mean, if we're the governing body that's been elected, us five have been elected to govern the Grant Cibola County schools. That's what we do. But we really don't. We govern them all, but not that one. By golly, you can't touch that one or can't even talk about that one. And we're talking about our COVID status and what is our status? They get their work. Oh, you can't come work here. That's crazy to me.
And I understand the frustration and, and I know the predicament you're in, but it doesn't make sense when, okay, they can't go onto the reservation, onto Laguna, including the opposing teams, but yet they could come to grants and they're still intermingling with people that aren't vaccinated or vaccinated and still going back. So it really doesn't make sense whether they play out there or out here.
None of it makes sense.
Because they're still intermingling with everybody else, including everybody else that shows up to the game. It's not limited to people with vaccines.
Man, it's time to just.
And I know that's a conversation that maybe we do need to have with the Pueblo of Laguna. Maybe we do need to set up a meeting amongst the board and them, LDOE or whoever else that we need to, so we can straighten this out and hash it out amongst ourselves versus,
Thank you for understanding the parameters.
And I do, and I wasn't trying to be disrespectful towards you at all. I'm just saying, it's very upsetting to me that they make rules that that supposedly that's our school out there. But they're making rules where we have no control over it. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, what I'd recommend, Mr. President, is making that an agenda item for
Sure.
a future item.
Let's do
In
that.
the future meeting here coming up soon.
Yeah, the sooner the better. We invite them and we could discuss.
I didn't mean to take control of your update there. It just, I get it. I get part of it.
Okay, Superintendent Perez.
Okay.
Blue Water School update.
Thank you, Mr. President, Board. We wanted to give an update on how things are going to the Blue Water Elementary School field. You know, we had option 1 and option 2 in question for a while. Things seem to develop on a weekly basis with PSFA and the funding. And I just wanted to ask Mr. Lee to give a quick update to keep you informed every step of the way. Mr. Lee.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Perez. No, we're really excited. It looks like we're gaining some headway. We are continuing with a 23,900 or 22,959 square foot facility. And at this point, it looks like we are going to do that at a full participation from the Public School Capital Outlay Council without utilizing the legislative appropriation. That's where we're at right now. We're real excited about that. That means it's a 75-25 share. We still, of course, have to get through the Public School Capital Outlay Council. But right now things are good as of this week. So we're really excited to hear that news. And the 850,000 would potentially carry an offset of 110,000 on a future project, which is a penalty. And if we can avoid that, then that just helps the Mesa View project as well. So we're really looking forward to that. We're going to continue the fight. We're not out of the woods yet, but it looks right now that we're going to get something close to a 23,000 square foot facility. I'll take any questions you might have.
Any comments, questions from the board?
Vance, when will we know?
Mr. Jones, we will, and members of the board, we will know in most likely November, December. The council typically does not take action on the award for construction until they've seen the bids from the RFP. And so that's kind of the unknown, and that's the unknown and the spooky part of all of that, because we don't have any signed document at this point. But we have had lots of discussions with the PSFA staff and their support for what we're trying to accomplish out there at Blue Water. So probably November, December.
Thank you.
Mr. Ortiz, Board President Ortiz.
Yes, Dr. Guy, go ahead.
Yes, it's my understanding that you're going to advocate, well, we are advocating for the what we call the option 1. Am I correct?
No, we're actually advocating for the current design. Option 1 is a 21,665 square foot facility that shrinks some spaces throughout the building. We lose no programs, but we are keeping that one in our hip pocket in case things go south with the council. And they're a pretty powerful group, so we want to have that option still available.
So what we're going to do is you're going to operate to support that position without the board's decision until the time comes when we are ready to approve that in November or December. So I'm expecting us to proceed with the design that you're saying that is fundable by your initial discussion with them.
Dr. Archambault, members of the board, yes, that's exactly. We want to proceed with the initial design, and but the action item, I would try to keep you all just as informed as I possibly could and strategize with all of you as to what our what Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C is. And right now, Plan A is a 22,959 square foot facility with Plan Bs and options for y'all to review before we spend a dime or enter into any general contractor contract.
So option B is only if we find some difficulty with funding.
Dr. Archambault, yes, that's correct.
Let's proceed.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Guy.
Mr. Ortiz?
Yes.
I sincerely apologize, but in the previous discussion, I could not find my unmute button. We were talking about the reentry plan. And I heard, and I don't want to get into an argument, but I don't withdraw from that either. But I think that part of the comments I heard were pretty rash comments made, and creates an antagonistic attitude between the so-called East versus West again. And I think we need to, as a board, be careful about how we communicate in a public setting, asserting things about getting rid of schools, things of that. That is really unconscionable, and I think the board does not have that position, and I think it was inappropriate for those kinds of things to be said. We need to be much more controlled and deliberate about how we discuss things, and not just fly off the handle. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Guy. Is that it, Mr. Perez?
So I have, Mr. President.
Okay, with that, announcements are there for you to look at. Future agenda items, get with me or Superintendent Perez. Need to adjourn. I need a motion.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Need a second. Leon. Roll call.
Dr. Garcia,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes. Yes.
Richard Jones,
Aye.
Yes.
Jan Sandoval.
Yes.
Robert Tees.
All right. Meeting adjourned at 7:01.